After what happened with the lawn gnome, I told myself I was done recording stuff around Uncle Ray's house. That lasted about 2 days because apparently, one weird things. I mean, once weird things start happening on that street, they don't stop. They just get more ridiculous. And this time, it all started with a trash can. Not a haunted trash can, not a cursed trash can, not a trash can with a blinking red spy box inside it. At least, I don't think so. This was just a normal green trash can that belonged to my Uncle Ray. But to him, that trash can was more than just a trash can. It was property. It was principle. It was, in his words, the last line of defense between civilization and disrespect. I don't know what that means either. But the point is, Uncle Ray called me at 8 in the morning sounding like somebody had robbed a bank. I answered the phone half asleep, and before I could even say hello, he yelled, "Jason, they took it." I said, "Who took what?" "My can." I sat up and said, "Your what?" "My trash can. Gone. Stolen. Taken in broad daylight." I looked at the clock and said, "It's 8 in the morning." He said, "Exactly. Broad daylight." Now, I should have just told him to check the side of his house or maybe call the trash company. But instead, because I have a bad habit of walking straight into chaos, I said, "Do you want me to come over?" He said, "Bring me your phone." That should have been the first warning sign. When I got to his house, Uncle Ray was standing at the end of the driveway wearing slippers, sweatpants, and a jacket that looked like he grabbed it in the middle of a fire drill. He was holding a notebook, not his phone. Not a receipt, a notebook. I said, "What's that?" He said, "Evidence log." I said, "For a trash can?" He looked at me like I had just insulted his entire family name. "For theft." Then he pointed to the curb. His trash can was gone. Now, to be fair, that did look weird. Everybody else's trash cans were still out. Diane's was there. The Hendersons were there. Even old Mr. Klein's trash can was sitting in front of his house, even though I'm pretty sure he hadn't taken his trash out since like 2009. But Uncle Ray's can was missing. I said, "Maybe the garbage truck accidentally took it." He said, "They don't accidentally steal one can and leave the others. This was targeted." Then Marty pulled up. I don't know how Marty keeps finding out when things are happening. I swear he has some kind of internal alarm that goes off whenever my uncle starts yelling. He got out of the car eating a breakfast sandwich and said, "What happened now?" Uncle Ray pointed at the empty curb and said, "Crime." Marty looked around. "Did somebody steal the road?" I said, "His trash can is missing." Marty nodded like that explained everything. "Oh, so we're doing this today." Uncle Ray opened his notebook and said, "I have suspects." I said, "You made a suspect list?" He said, "Diane." I said, "That's one suspect." He said, "It's a strong list." Of course, because of the law gnome situation, Uncle Ray was already convinced Diane had something to do with it. Even though, if we we're being honest, Diane had probably spent the last 2 days being mad about Mr. Pickles getting smashed in her flower bed. Mr. Pickles, by the way, was still there. Kind of. The broken pieces were gone, but Diane had put a little tiny wooden cross in the flower bed where the gnome used to be. I am not joking. There was a small sign stuck in the dirt that said, "Mr. Pickles, gone but not forgotten." Marty saw it and nearly choked on his sandwich. He said, "She had a funeral?" Uncle Ray said, "That's how guilty people act." I said, "That is not how guilty people act." Then Diane's front door opened. She stepped outside holding her drink can and immediately saw us standing near the curb. She said, "Ray, why are you looking at my house like that?" Uncle Ray yelled, "You know what you did?" Diane closed her eyes like she was praying for patience. "What did I do now?" "You stole my trash can." She stared at him, then looked at me, then Marty, then back at Uncle Ray. She said, "Ray, I have my own trash can." He pointed at her can. That's what you want us to think. Diane said, That doesn't even make sense. Marty whispered to me, I don't think sense lives on the street anymore. That's when I started recording. I didn't want to miss whatever was about to happen, because Diane and Uncle Ray arguing over a missing child already sounded like something people wouldn't believe unless there was proof. Uncle Ray walked to the edge of the driveway and said, Return the can and I'll consider this settled. Diane put her watering can down. Ray, I did not take your trash can. Then where is it? How would I know? You live across the street. So? So you had visual access. Diane looked at me and said, Is he serious? I said, Unfortunately. Then Marty said the one thing he should not have said. Maybe Mr. Pickles took it. Everybody went quiet. Uncle Ray slowly turned towards him. Diane slowly turned towards him. Even I turned towards him. Marty raised his hands. What? Too soon? Diane pointed at him and said, You are not funny. Uncle Ray said, That gnome was involved in something bigger. Diane snapped back, You destroyed my property. There was a spy box inside it. I didn't put that there. That made everyone pause for a second. None of us had really talked about the man in the gray jacket since it happened. Diane had said he didn't know him. Uncle Ray said he was obviously part of the gnome operation. Marty said he didn't want to know anything else because he refused to get dragged into lawn decoration. I don't even know what the word is. And me, I still hadn't told any of them about the weird frame in my video. The one from my own front yard. The one where the man in the gray jacket was standing near my driveway at night, looking at my bedroom window. I almost said something right then, but before I could, Uncle Ray pointed down the street and shouted, There! We all looked. At the corner near the stop sign was a green trash can. It was lying on its side. Uncle Ray gasped like he had just found a missing child. My can! Then he started walking towards it. Fast. I followed with the camera. Marty followed because he follows bad decisions the way ducks follow. Diane followed too, probably because she wanted proof that she wasn't involved. When we got to the corner, Uncle Ray flipped the trash can upright. It was definitely his. His house number was written on the lid in black marker. The one from my own front yard. The one where the man in the gray jacket was standing near my driveway at night, looking at my bedroom window. I almost said something right then, but before I could, Uncle Ray pointed down the street and shouted, There! We all looked. At the corner near the stop sign was a green trash can. It was lying on its side. Uncle Ray gasped like he had just found a missing child. My can! Then he started walking towards it. Fast. I followed with the camera. Marty followed because he follows bad decisions the way ducks follow. Diane followed too, probably because she wanted proof that she wasn't involved. When we got to the corner, Uncle Ray flipped the trash can upright. It was definitely his. His house number was written on the lid in black marker. Uncle Ray looked around the street like anything behind in the mailbox. Then he said, See? This is what I've been saying. Diane said, Ray, this is not about your trash can. He said, It became about my trash can when they stole it. Marty said, Okay, I'm just going to say it. The weird guy from the gnome thing did this, right? Nobody answered, because that was exactly what we were all thinking. Then the trash can moved. Not a lot, just a little. A soft bump from the inside. Marty jumped back. Diane screamed. Uncle Ray raised the notebook to defend himself with paperwork. I kept the camera on the can. There was another bump, then a scratching sound. Marty said, Nope, no, no, no. If a little gnome can comes out of there, I'm leaving the state. Wrap the lid. I said, Don't open it. He said, It's my can. I said, That doesn't mean open the haunted trash can. He looked at me and said, It is not haunted, it's evidence. Then he lifted the lid. A raccoon shot out. I mean, it launched itself. It came flying out of the trash can like it had been fired from a cannon. Diane screamed again. Marty ran into somebody's yard. I, um, I almost dropped my phone. Uncle Ray stumbled backward and yelled, "Ambush!" The raccoon hit the ground, looked at all of us like and ran behind a garage. For about 10 seconds, nobody said anything. Then Marty, from halfway across the yard, yelled, "I hate this neighborhood." And honestly, fair. Uncle Ray slammed the trash can lid shut like he had won a battle. He said that was planted. Diane said, "Ray, nobody planted a raccoon." He said, "You don't know that." I said, "Uncle Ray, raccoons just get into the trash cans." I pointed at the note. He pointed at the note, sorry. Then did the raccoon write this? Nobody had a good answer for that. We wheeled the trash can back to Uncle Ray's house. Well, I say we, but really Uncle Ray wheeled it while muttering the whole time. Marty walked at least 10 feet away from it. Diane kept watching every house on the street, kept recording. When we got back to the driveway, Uncle Ray said he was just going to wash the trash can out with bleach, boiling water, and maybe fire. I told him not to use fire. He said, "We'll see." That was when old Mr. Klein came outside. Mr. Klein lived 2 houses down. Nobody really knew much about him. He was one of those old men who always seemed to be outside doing something very slow, like sweeping the same porch step for 20 minutes or staring into a bush like it had told him a secret. He walked over carrying a folded newspaper. He looked at Uncle Ray's trash can, then he looked at the note in Uncle Ray's hand, then he looked at me. He said, "You found another one?" Another one. That was the part that bothered me. Not "you found it," not "what happened." He said, "Another one." Uncle Ray said, "Another what?" Mr. Klein away. He looked up and down the street, then lowered his voice. Diane said, "You know something about this?" Mr. Klein's face tightened. "I know people around here used to have sense enough not to film everything." Marty said, "Why does everybody keep saying stuff like that?" Mr. Klein looked at Marty like he had just noticed him and instantly regretted it. Then he pointed at my phone. "That camera brings attention." I said, "Attention from who?" He didn't answer. Instead, he handed me the folded newspaper. It was old. Not old like yesterday's paper. Old like the edges were yellow and soft. There was an article circled on the front page. The headline said, "Local man vanishes after recording strange figure near Briar Street." I looked at the date. It was from 1998. My stomach dropped a little, because Uncle Ray's street was Briar Street. I looked up and said, "What is this?" Mr. Klein said, "A warning." Uncle Ray took the paper from me. Diane leaned closer to read it. Marty said, "I don't like wordings from newspapers. That's never good." Mr. Klein nodded toward our bed across the street where Mr. Pickles used to be. Then he said, "That thing in the gnome wasn't for watching Ray." Uncle Ray frowned. "What do you mean?" Mr. Klein looked right at me. "It was for watching him." Nobody said anything. I felt my hand tighten around my phone. First, I actually considered turning the camera off. Then Marty said, "Why would somebody be watching Jason?" Mr. Klein shook his head. "Not somebody." I didn't like that. Diane said, "Mr. Klein, you need to explain what's going on." But he just turned and started walking back toward his house. Uncle Ray yelled after him, "You can't just say something creepy and leave." Mr. Klein stopped near his porch. Without turning around, he said, "Yes, I can." Then he went inside and shut the door. After that, nobody really knew what to do. Diane went back to her house, but before she did, she actually apologized to Uncle Ray for thinking he was completely making things up. He accepted the apology by saying, "I was only 70% wrong." Marty said that was personal growth. Uncle Ray dragged the trash can into the garage and announced he was going to inspect it for wires, cameras, microphones, government dust, and raccoon fingerprints. Again, I don't know what government dust is. I went home a little after that, and for the rest of the day, I kept thinking about the newspaper. A local man vanished after recording a strange figure near Bryce Street. That could have meant anything: a crime, a hoax, some old local rumor. But then I started thinking about my footage from the gnome video. That one frame, the man in the gray jacket, my bedroom window. So I did something stupid. I went outside that night and checked my driveway. I really didn't expect to find it. I just needed to look. The street was quiet, the porch light was on, everything looked normal. But near the edge of the driveway, right where the man had been standing in that one frame of footage, there was something on the ground. A piece of paper. Folded once, I picked it up. There were only 3 words written on it. Second warning given. I stood there for a long time just staring at it. Then my phone buzzed. It was a text from Marty. He had sent me a screenshot from the video I recorded earlier. It was from the moment when the raccoon jumped out of the trash can. In the screenshot, Marty was running, Diane was screaming, and Uncle Ray was falling backward. It should have been funny, but in the background, across the street, standing near Diane's flower bed, was the man in the gray jacket. He was blurry, almost hidden, but he was there, and he was looking straight at the camera. So yeah, that's how a stolen trash can turned into another warning. And I'm starting to think Uncle Ray's street had been weird for a lot longer than any of us realized.